I am super stoked because we have quite a few films to talk about today, and the first one I'm going to talk about is my first experience at the Alamo Drafthouse Film Club, which is every Wednesday. So super stoked. I checked out last Wednesday, and that film is Requiem for a Dream. If you haven't already, go ahead and hit the subscribe button for daily film content, from movie reviews to film news and so much more. Again, hit that subscribe button to never miss a video. Today we are reviewing Requiem for a Dream, the 2000 Darren Aronofsky film starring Jared Leto and Jennifer Connelly. Now, this is a film I got to see at the Alamo Drafthouse for a film club viewing, which I'm kind of super stoked. I actually always knew about this Alamo Drafthouse, but never actually been there. It's about an hour and a half from me, so it's about a state over, so not too far. Kind of far, but close enough to make the drive there and back in a day, and pretty easy actually. So got to go there Wednesday for my first film club. I saw Requiem for the Dream, which this is my first time watching this film. Now, this is a film I've heard about for quite some time, heard a lot about it. People I know I've seen it and talk about it, and always talk about how much it really kind of messed them up, and how like it is just an ending that will completely stick with you and like haunt you forever. So kind of going into it, I was expecting really dark and gritty and just completely twisted, which by no extent is this film not dark, gritty, and twisted, but it wasn't as twisted and like life-altering or life-shattering as I thought it was going to be. Which part I think is just, I think I had a very high build-up or an anticipation of what to expect, and it just wasn't worse than what my vision wasn't expecting. Now, for those of you who don't know what the film was about, it's pretty much a story about a group of friends who are drug addicts and kind of their highs and lows, and kind of like this very depiction of addiction in a very serious note in a way that hasn't been really shown in film. Even you have this really good depiction of the grandmother, and you have this, of the family member of Jared Leto's character who is there throughout his entire addiction, and kind of the struggle of the family pool, and what addiction does to a family, not just the user. And you also kind of had this insight on how addiction gets started, and how addiction is not necessarily a choice, so to speak, in a more blender sense. We see that it starts off as simple as dieting pills can kind of turn into a drug addiction, and it's a lot more of an insight on pharmaceuticals and the not the pharmaceutical industry, but more like the medication at the pharmaceutical industry and pharmaceuticals in general, and just the lack of control, or how easily substance abuse can be formed, and how easy it is to handle these substances that are can be very addicting, and one can use and abuse. But more so, we're gonna kind of geeky with this one because this is a film club review, which I'm probably gonna start doing these every week now, and just kind of have a more in-depth review and doing more on a technical aspect. Whereas in other reviews, I try to keep it more light and mainstream, if you will. But in this one, kind of want to get more geeky with it and really kind of have that core of, that core film talk. Now, from the get-go, I think this has some beautiful cinematography. Some of these shots just really stand out. There's a lot of shots in this film that are very well photographed and choreographed, and you have this really good vision on a take on how to get your viewer to experience this transition from, your dried out person to when they get high, and their kind of inclusion to that without actually showing too much of, because that's kind of where I was at with this film too, is how they're going to depict that. Like, is it going to be very great, like you're going to be seeing firsthand, what they're doing, or is it going to be, and the way Aronofsky really takes this vision and this way of storytelling to show, the peak from sober to high, and strung out to high, and this kind of envisionment is very unique. but it works so well because it uses a various different techniques and shots to kind of build up and tell you what they're doing without actually telling you what they're doing, which from a technical aspect, I thought intriguing and interesting take in how they kind of depictate the stages of getting high and kind of their drug of choice, because they use various drugs in this film, but the different ones had different starting points, midpoints, and high points in the drug use. But what also I think was really intriguing is some of these shots he uses, with the dream sequence being one of my favorite shots in the film. Now, you had this shot in the film, which you see in the trailers, which Jared Leto is looking through his window, and it kind of slowly fades away as you kind of zoom into Jennifer Connelly's character, and it kind of fades out the window, and you just see the pier and Jennifer Connelly's character sitting at the end of it with the water surrounding her. It is just such a beautiful shot in such a dark and really depressing film, and it's just a highlight of this film because you have something so, because even the context in which that dream really sequence comes into play, it's never in a high point, but it's such a beautifully shot scene, and there's something about that scene I just truly adore it. It's just how well it's captured, and again, it's always during these parts in which aren't the high points of their characters' sense of being or kind of their situation, but it plays out as an escapism for Jared Leto's character. But not only that, just the overall cinematography and the way that shot is captured is just truly captivating. And, kind of as a film as a whole, you have this really in-depth look at, this really nasty addiction and how they go from, being, petty thieves to kind of building their way up to try to stabilize themselves in a sense of not necessarily stabilizing as in becoming clean, but in the sense of being able to maintain their habits and be on top of the crumbling pyramid instead of on the bottom. And you have like the highs and lows, and then it gets kind of really in the darker sides of drug abuse, and kind of how it starts off with petty crime and just the versions even at their highest, even at the peak of their drug use, and which times seem like they're not well off, but they are getting by and not necessarily in a bad way. They're still very much in kind of a spiral, and how quickly they spiral down. And just, it's such a powerful film in really captivating and capturing not only the highs and lows of drug abuse and drug use, but really kind of telling the story in such a way that it's insightful and very much real, gritty, and very just kind of powerful in a way that kind of sticks with you. Even though this film got slapped with an NC-17 and did not get a wide release and did poorly at the box office, because again, due to its rating and its issues there, it definitely had some problems getting off the ground as far as success-wise, but its audience, the youth of the early 2000s, really kind of resonated with this film, and it kind of found its viewership and its support there, and to this day is probably considered to be one of Darren Aronofsky's best films, and it definitely holds up as far as just being a really captivating and insightful film, while also being, from a technical aspect, really well put together. I mean, the direction's damn near perfect. It has great pacing. Like I said, the cinematography, you have these really gorgeous shots. It really does captivate and capture, and really makes one question a lot of things, and really kind of gives us a different look into the subject matter. With that being said, if you haven't seen this film, I definitely recommend it. It's one that I can't see myself watching it soon, because again, it is a very overwhelming film at times. But I don't think it's as dark and unsettling as some people say it is, as some people have remarked, or at least to me, it wasn't as overwhelming as I've heard it to be. It's very much a product of its nature, if you will. I would say, maybe, if that's a, I don't know if that's right word, even wording. It's definitely, again, given the subject matter of drug addiction and, you know, kind of following addicts from their low to the high to rock bottom. It's everything I'd expect from, you know, this film. So it wasn't something, I kind of went in knowing what to expect, and even had more of a kind of reserve on how dark it's going to get. So I feel like it wasn't as unsettling as some may say. It really does, you know, have these unsettling moments that really will sit with you and stay with you for quite some time after the film ends. It's a very powerful film, and it's definitely, I'm gonna have to say, it's one of the best of Darren Aronofsky's films. What are your thoughts? Comment below. Let me know.